Welcome to the Authentic Leaders Rising podcast, where high-achieving entrepreneurs and leaders come to receive deep, insightful conversations and practical guidance to move from hustle to flow without sacrificing their authentic self and the results. I am your host and Chief Energy Officer, Tammy Cho, a former patient care leader turned international best-selling author, speaker, and face and body analysis expert. Get ready to lead your authenticity, lead your energy, and lead your impact. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's podcast. I have a special guest here, Almira Bardai, and she's one of Canada's leading entrepreneurs, having founded and scaled to 7 figures and exited a PR company that she founded. Now a business and a growth coach. Almira specializes working with entrepreneurs to grow and scale their business from 6 to 7 figures. And her sweet spot is working with clients to transform their business and their life into one that they've always dreamed of, and from a place of ease, flow, and freedom, which we really like here on Authentic Leaders Rising. So welcome, Almira.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And so, once in a while, I like to bring a guest on that really has stepped into their authentic leadership. And I invite them to share their story because I think everyone's journey is completely different in their own way. And I feel like it gives permission for people to do it their way, however that shows up.
Yeah.
And so, Almira, please tell us a bit about your story, how you came to be, and all the success you've grown in your life and supporting your clients. Like, how did Almira become Almira?
Yeah. I mean, mine is a longer journey in that when I was in university, I went to Simon Fraser University and they offered the co-op program. And so that was really such a journey in that I got the skills in my industry. My background is in public relations and communications. I graduated with all of this amazing experience. So actually, I've been in the industry. I'm 47 now. So I've been working in it since I was 19. And this is one thing that I've just always encouraged people, especially young people when they're moving into their new career, is to get that experience. And for me, I did 4 terms working in the communications industry. But it also goes around my philosophy I used to say there's no such thing as no, but I don't like using no anymore. Now I'm saying there's always a yes. And so when I worked in my first co-op in Ottawa for Human Resources Development Canada, which I now believe is Service Canada, I was in Ottawa, and I ended up working with the Director General of Communications here in a BC office. And so then I said, okay, I'm finishing my co-op term. Any chance I could do a contract in your office because I'm going back to Vancouver? And he said yes. And then I think I had it for about 6 months. I had to do the co-op program again. I went and worked for Future Shop. When I completed that, I went back to work for the government. So I had so much experience that by the time I actually graduated, I ended up being recruited into one of the top PR firms in Canada. And always just saying yes and being very open to learning and being very collaborative. That's one of the key things that people are always saying about me is that you're so collaborative. After the job with a PR agency in Vancouver, I ended up moving to the UK. And because one of my clients was Molson at the agency here in Vancouver, I moved to the UK looking for a job. And I was on the tube one day and saw an ad for Cobra beer. And so I thought, okay, well, I know beer. I've done beer PR. And I literally cold called them the next day, cold called the marketing director and asked if he's looking for a PR person. And he said, I'm looking for PR, but I'm looking for a secretary. So then I said, okay, I'll cut you a deal. If you let me do PR, I will be your secretary. To which he said, on a secretary salary. And I said, yes. So fast forward the following year, I ended up being promoted to head of global PR. And it was wild. I was 25 at the time when that happened. And we had offices in India, Cape Town, New York, plus the UK. I had team members in communications all across the entire business and in different countries and agencies across the world, running press trips around Europe. Selfridges asked for our product. We launched these extraordinary embossed bottles. So Selfridges wanted to put them in the windows. And, to give you a sense of the brand, our closest competitor was Tiger Beer. And it was amazing being so young and doing this. And then as much as I loved London, after a few years, I really wanted to move to Australia. So that happened. Then I ended up coming back to Vancouver for a time and, I was just job hunting and nobody would hire me because I'd been gone for about 7 years at that point. And so they said I'd been too experienced. And eventually I just ended up finding clients. I went onto Craigslist, found a client. And so you create your no's. And I think that's a big, or sorry, you create your yeses. That's a big part of my philosophy is that where are the yeses that I can create in my life and how does it come into alignment with me? I went back to Australia for just a few months, came back, and I really had the realization in Australia, I'm like, I don't need a real job, quote unquote. This is what entrepreneurship is about. And I think I was one of the first people to be flexible working from my computer. Like, keeping in mind, that was 2008. So 15 years ago or more. And I love being my own boss. I love being able to create my own life. You really do have your own destiny when you're able to make those decisions. And then I then met my future business partner. We merged our smaller PR agencies because by then I'd actually set up my agency properly. We merged our two agencies and then we ended up forming Drive PR and Digital. And I had the business for 10 years. And again, it grew. We had clients like Granville Island Brewing, Virgin Radio, major shopping centers, Disney, Jugo Juice, Flight Center, like huge coveted clients. And what was very, or currently even still is not done usually in the agency sector is to have your clients for more than 2, 3, 4, 5 years. We'd had our clients for 10 years. And it really goes down to the authentic relationship that we had with our clients. And it was very high touch. And it was funny because we were always trying to look for our uniqueness, like what makes us different. And it actually was our service and the relationships we had with those clients, authentic ones, like they became dear friends. I sold the business in 2018 and I'm still friends with them. And we'll still go out for lunch and just have those wonderful relationships, and I know about their families, and this one's mother is sick or these one's kids have graduated, and I've actually met a lot of their kids. So it's really neat to see that evolution. When I had my son, I saw his presents, and um but being so high touch, it was a Christmas lunch and then summer lunches, and clients absolutely looked forward to this. And again, one of the key things we had was collaboration, because a lot of agencies didn't naturally want to collaborate. Like this was their territory, or they just kind of hold it close to their chest. Whereas we were open doors. Let's work with other agencies, and other agencies found it so refreshing, or they loved to work with us, and we actually became friends with the agencies, and we'd hang out with their team members, and being able to be so flexible and collaborative. Again, coming down to authenticity. One, because it's also collaboration with what your client needs. We're all working for the same goal, but it was really our hearts. We were so heart led. We were always taking clients or new clients or just going for lunch with people, concept of breaking bread. That's really how we even did our business development. And for our team members, there was so much of that, our activities, but it really centers around that personal relationship and that personal care. But I think one area that I really needed to learn was in my own management of leadership of our team. I tend to be like very jokey, or I can be very witty. And when you have that type of manner of speaking with employees, it doesn't foster trust or kindness, but it kind of bleeds a line, right? That
Mhm.
these are team members, they're not my friends, but they're friends, but with a different, friends with different relationships, if you will. And
Mhm.
so that was an area that I could be really offensive actually, because one, they're younger. Two, I am the boss, the owner of their company. They want to impress me, or they want to have a different relationship. So, as much as we talk about authenticity, it is also that there needs to really have that strong, beautiful professional relationship. And so that was an area that I really had to learn that even though that was a natural style that was authentic to me, it's not the authenticity that's needed in my business. And also, body language was a key one in that I do speak quickly. I had to learn to slow down so that people could keep up with me. I often have clients even tell me is that you speak and you work so fast. We have no idea what you're doing actually, but you do it so well and we trust you. So just do what it is. But we have no idea where you are in that process. So I needed to learn to communicate better, which is hilarious for a master of communications, if you will. And then even things like slowing down my walk. I would get up from my desk and I'd be typing on my computer, be, ooh, I want a coffee. So I would run to the coffee machine and get a coffee. And somebody would say, oh, can I talk to you for a moment? Yeah, no problem. Walk and talk with me. And even just the visually being able to see me get up from my computer, go run and get a coffee, all at the same time telling people, I have time for you. Like I was looking busy, and
Mhm.
looking busy and the visual of being busy does not align with of course I've got all the time to speak to you, to my team members or anybody who might be there, and saying, of course, my door is always open. Please always come in. But when you're seeing somebody, even though they have an ability to work fast, that does not foster or promote or physically compel somebody that your door is open. And so
Mhm.
I actually had coaching to learn how to be a better communicator, also a better listener, how to ask different questions. And also because I am very high energy. And I've spoken to leaders about this before, that when they're high energy, they speak fast, they come across as telling people what to do, even though that's never our intention. It is how our energy is coming across. Very energetic people can actually cause anxiety in others, because others are like, oh my gosh, I just feel all of this energy. It actually comes across as extremely intense. And so
Mhm.
when we're able to take that step back and to be calmer, more relaxed, and even there was a book, Time to Think, actually, was a book that I had read, and the coaching habit, really learning about when your team wants to come and sit down with you, discuss something, you're not telling them how to do it, you're leading them to be able to come up with their own answers or solutions to it. Also, about being a better leader. And because I would often say to people, I don't know, I'll use the example of write a press release. These are the few things that I would want to see. And there's a specific system to writing a press release. But do what you feel is right, and then bring it to me. But then I would be finding, I don't want to use the word mistakes, but I'm going to use mistakes for lack of a better term right now. But I'd be finding so many mistakes, or it just wasn't the way it needed to be, that then I would give my feedback. Well, how annoying is that? If I just given them my feedback or my desires in the first place, they could actually do a better job on their work. I think I was afraid that I didn't
Mhm.
want to be seen as controlling their work. But then it was seen as micromanaging their work, because I would not be clear enough in my desires or what the needs were, or even things about the key messaging or what type of a quote should come from the client. So
Mhm.
I really needed to learn how to communicate better. Again, I talk a lot. I have a background in communications, but it was an exercise in learning how to be an effective communicator, how to inspire and motivate people without feeling like they're micromanaged. And I think that was the maturity as a leader that I needed to develop.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. Just from the very beginning of your journey, just like this, like get her done, take action energy, right? Like it got you very far in your life, very early on in your life. It really
Mhm,
served you, right? And it's almost like now the universe is slowing you down,
mhm.
like have this communication degree, but
Yeah,
actually not from a place of how much knowledge, but
yeah.
actually you're navigating in a way into your beingness, so to speak.
Mhm,
That's really landing within you, and how this is showing up for your team. This is a very good representation of, really that authentic, and I bring in the energy, the
mhm,
energetic part of it
mhm,
behind the leadership in that.
mhm,
And so I think it's really beautiful, like just in this beginning story that you're telling us, how you've navigated this change within you, and seeing like the difference between not having the intention and speaking fast,
mhm,
and then being able to like communicate to your team what you want
mhm.
and have things done differently, and releasing maybe looks like controlling, but it's really not. And yeah, there's just some beautiful lessons just in all of that. And so I wondered, like with this, like how do you connect to being your authentic self in all of this,
Mhm,
authentic leader in this business? I mean, yes, it's like changing your communication, but how did that feel within yourself as you were going through that? Like how did
mhm,
you, was it an external feedback, was it like something that happened,
mhm.
and what went on for you that really changed you in this way?
Yeah, so it was my team that was actually complaining about me in
Mhm.
terms of like micromanaging or feeling like they were being controlled. And it just naturally led to, let's get some coaching. I'm very coachable. And also, I think it was a struggle for me in the sense, one, I value feedback. So that was the important part. But it was, but this is me. So how do I now behave and speak in something that is actually not me, because I'm therefore changing myself to please others. But again, I think when I approach it from a maturing perspective, especially this is one thing that I teach with the clients that I work with, is that as your business matures, it goes from a startup, a little kid learning to walk, and then you are going to go to the pace where the child is just running. and you're running to keep up with it, and then they will mature into an adult. So as the business grows, we also need to mature or grow as leaders. It's just adding more tools into your toolbox. And just like you would want to add more money, or in comparison to a stock portfolio, you want to diversify, it was a diversification of a skill set. And the change that came across between me and my team was fairly instantaneous, to be honest. Like my own business partner noticed, she's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you." She said they've fallen in love with you. It was apparent that the relationships were so amazing and were authentic and true, and also that there's more respect that was happening. Whereas I thought that I had respect, but I didn't have the full respect of the team. And now
Mm.
it was an authentic respect that I was receiving, but because it also started with me showing up in a more mature fashion or watching my tone of voice. Because also, like our clients, they love me for me. I drop F bombs, have the conversations with them. So, because I could also be able to carry my own authentic way, and that's also like why clients love me. I met, funny enough, I was at a Boys and Girls Club gala dinner, and I was sitting next to this gentleman who ended up turning out to be the marketing director of an organic beverage brand. And he was just dropping F bombs left, right, and center. So I was like, well, I'm going to do that too. And we were just swearing and dropping F bombs. And then, of course, talking about working together, things like that. And he goes, okay, well, I want a proposal tomorrow morning. I said, no problem. I'll get that off to you. And so I sent it to him. And then 20 minutes later, he drops a message back to me saying, when are we going to effing work together? So when you have those relationships with those type of clients, again, it's the feeling is that I can be myself all of the time. But again, I don't love hierarchy, but hierarchy in a different sense of the word is actually necessary. At the end of the day, you're a business owner. These people do work for you. But what is the effective yet authentic relationship that you can have with your team members, but without losing a sense of who you truly are? Because people will tell it when you're faking it. And I think it's learning is that how can I be me, but the me that is actually required in this specific situation? And I mean, I guess it's things like you wouldn't talk to your mother-in-law in a certain way, right?
Mhm.
So when you're starting to build the authenticity required for different situations, and I began to feel okay with it because again, I felt like I couldn't be my authentic self. I felt like I was walking on eggshells. But when I looked at it from a different perspective, it was kind of easier to swallow, if you will.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's a piece of that, right? Because I think that a lot of times we're told to really, we got to elevate our identity to something else. And often we look outside of ourselves for someone we admire and look up to. I want to be like her or whatever, right? But really, I feel like it really is coming back to who we are and
Mhm.
learning how to navigate that with boundaries.
Mhm. Yeah, and boundaries with ourselves because I actually have, except for the parts about where I'm being really offensive when I'm swearing, I generally have good boundaries around people. And I had to learn that you have to have boundaries everywhere, for your own mouth or things like that. But it is also, there's that book, The Four Agreements, and it talks about speaking impeccably. And I think that's such a beautiful lesson because it also, our words, our spelling puts a spell on our life. And therefore, it enhances your ability to manifest or to do something or just to create your life again with your speech. And so, why wouldn't you want to be impeccable with your speech? Again, not to be on guard or to be fake, but in your most authentic self. How do you create a beautiful spell on your life in all circumstances and scenarios?
Yeah, I mean, I really love how you just naturally, even early on, like developing this authentic connection with people and that relationship building early on. It really feels, Amira, like you had so much going for you in many ways. And yet, a big part of, really rising in our authentic leadership has so much to do with deepening into that.
Mhm,
And I know we've talked about human design, right?
mhm,
And you're a projector. And so
mhm.
you're meant to be that leader and that guide.
Yes.
Yet they only have so much energy reserve,
Mhm. Yes,
you know?
yes. And it's funny because I've actually heard we're not meant to be leaders, we're meant to be guides, which is interesting because the way that we're taught is that, like in my mind, is that if you're guiding people, you are leading. But what we guide people to is actually to be able to see themselves or to be able to see a situation. And as we guide them, they learn to lead themselves, which I thought was really interesting. And again, as a projector, I don't have the energetic capacity, which is funny because it was actually one of the ways that I kind of define myself is that I have so much energy and I have a huge capacity for work, which has been interesting. Again, being a projector, we're not actually meant to work all the time. We're really supposed to work a maximum of 4 hours. So, in learning to slow down, I had to shift what I believed to myself to be authentic about me. Again, in the sense, I've got a large capacity to do work, or you have a problem, I'll solve it. But when you say things like that, you're attracting problems, right? And so, learning to honor my body and my authentic energetic state, which is resting, getting creative, getting out in nature. The other day I went and just grounded in nature for 1 minute and my whole insides turned pink and red. It literally, and I've never had this experience before because I'm often outside or touching trees and things like that. But it was glorious. And I closed my eyes and just pink and then red and I felt like my body didn't exist. And so I think this is also a time when the projectors are only, I think it's 281 years old. So we're the newest of the energy types. And really actually embodying that or getting to have that in my body and to be the projector. We're also the closest and most divinely connected of all of the energy types. We actually create in the 5D. So learning and deconditioning, that's an intense piece, and letting go of everything that we've been taught that is true, even things like money. Money isn't real, money is energy. It's definitely a wild ride. And learning all of these pieces about myself is actually challenging who and what I thought of myself to be. And to a certain degree, human design is a great hack on your life. Not everything, you can take whatever it is that you want, but it's interesting to have a hack that you never defined yourself by. Again, and it's not that I work 60 hours a week. I'm not into that. I've always been 40 or less. But when you define yourself at being great, at being efficient or productive, but your energy type is not designed for productivity, but we are designed for, we've got great systems or efficacy and things like that. Makes
Mhm.
me think, oh, or how could life have been different if I've been operating in my energy type? It certainly brings up some questions about how I've operated in the past, but it's been a unique, shall we say, learning experience, learning to be somebody that I never thought I was or understood myself to be.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that because I think there are a lot of projectors out there that they don't know they're a projector and they are running themselves to the ground and
Mhm.
burning out and thinking it's the only way. And I hope that you speaking about this and that we all have a different energy type and blueprint, right? Will really serve people that listen to this. And what comes through for me, Amira, is that in the deeper, like receiving and slowing down for you, it's almost like that efficiency piece. Like you talked about the 5D, you're able to tap into that.
Mhm.
That's the beauty of a projector.
Yes.
And it's like when you slow down, you just get the most efficient things to move you and your clients forward in a way that's going to be like way more easeful.
Yes. Yes.
And
And the receiving, I love how you talk about that because especially as women, I mean, you and I've talked about it before, or it's almost like we don't understand receiving. And to a certain degree, we grew up in not even so much hustle culture, but shoulder pads, blazer, and power women.
yeah.
And it's not to say that we can't do it, but we were taught to do, not necessarily to push, we were taught to do. And so receiving, and I think this is my read on it, but this is a time when all women and men as well, anybody wanting to be more in their feminine, are being challenged to receive and to be comfortable with ease and receiving. And I think there is a certain worry or a lack of trust that everything will easily come because how do we know? Like, I don't understand the how of receiving. We're not meant to, but I think it's a unique time where it's fascinating to watch the receiving, and the receiving is big. I will say that we have to also be able to slow down to receive. If you're operating in so many and doing so much, it's not possible to receive. It's that concept of if you want more lollipops for Halloween, you can't reach into the Halloween bag because your hands are already full of candy. Nobody can put candy in your hands or put in fresh lollipops or something like that because you're just gripping your own. and making room for that receiving is, well, it's a process.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm someone that like teaches, like I have a program called Open to Receive, literally, right? And it's
Ooh.
a skill. It's a skill to learn how to receive. And you talk about the doing, but I, like how I see it is that I've been trained to be a giver as a woman,
Oh.
giving of myself. And if we don't know how to give to ourselves and
Mm,
receive, we're going to feel like we have nothing to give, yet we feel we still need to do the conditioning of giving more.
yes.
And that's what's happening. And it's like what I know, Amira, and I'm not sure if this, you notice this, is that when things are not working in my business, oftentimes it's because I'm not giving myself what I need. And it's
Mm,
often in the thresholds of our growth is
mhm,
that when I slow down enough and actually practice receiving and give to myself. Sometimes it's a need.
mhm,
Sometimes it's literally wanting to be heard and witnessed. Sometimes it's like I realize I need more, touch on my body. Like it's so like these things we're just not taught to be curious about what is it that we need as women.
mhm.
And I know you talk about desire often too. It's like a lot of us have lost touch with that desire of obviously to receive, you must know what you want to desire, right?
Mhm.
So it
Yes.
comes hand in hand.
Yes.
And I'm curious, Amira, as you work with people to bring them back to more of that desire piece in your business, and what maybe I'll ask you this: what do you notice your clients need to receive or
Mhm.
desire more of to move from 6 to 7 figures?
I think the biggest one is actually pleasure. And we have not prioritized pleasure. And I don't mean sexual pleasure, although it's a part of it. But when do you ever feel pleased or do something with pleasure? And for me, I'll pay a bill with pleasure. I'll even write down, because of course, track my money, but I write down how much the bill is with pleasure. Or if I have 10 minutes, I want to sit down and read a book. Okay, fine. But now I'm getting a coffee in a beautiful cup and I'll light a candle, even if it's for 10 minutes. And there's another coach I worked with, and she's all about, her program is called Nectar. Her name is Anna Kinkela. And she's all about being in your lush. And the idea, if you're going through a launch, for example, is that you actually counteract what could be quote unquote a busy time with pleasure and with lush. So that's actually how you regulate your nervous system, and expand it is through a stressful, busy time. You're not necessarily calming, but you're moving into pleasure. And so I'm actually calling this my season of lush right now. And I'm actually not working as everybody would define it, but I'm taking much more rest. Last week I was watching Bridgerton. Oh my gosh, have you watched Bridgerton?
No, I haven't.
Oh, and I thought it might be really boring. Like it's an English, well, it's on Netflix by Shonda Rhimes, but it takes place in England during the Regency period. But the clothes and the balls and the romance, like it was fabulous. And so I would make a cup of a turmeric latte, and I'd take the nice side plate out to eat cookies that I've baked. And it nourishes my soul. And I think that's been one of the words, actually, and it actually came up on the session we went together with the horses, is that my word is nourish. And it's not just nourishing my body with good food, it's about a bit about nourishing my soul, nourishing my body. And again, my nice plates, they actually can't go in the dishwasher, so usually I'll use a different plate that I can put in the dishwasher just so I don't have to deal with it. But now I'm taking out my beautiful plates. I'm taking out the candles. Everything for me is a pleasurable experience. I'm very into Ayurveda, and you're supposed to do a daily self massage with a warm oil. So before it used to be, okay, put my oil in the baby bottle warmer because it's such a great way to warm up anything. Put in the baby bottle and, sit there and do my oils. But now it's a ritual,
Mm.
taking my glass bottle and touching it and put it in the bottle warmer, create a nice space. I will maybe even actually I keep roll-ons on my desk. And so what is my roll-on that I want to be using today? And like this one is, so it's actually an abundance roll-on. It just,
Mm.
when I smell that, the senses in there and using my senses, and it feels lovely. And to me, isn't that what life should feel like? Lovely. And to what I've received in return is that it was recently my birthday and I went out with a few friends. They all bought me birthday presents. Whereas, normally I think at this age in life, you might do flowers or wine, but they bought me birthday presents and then got me a cake from an extraordinary bakery that I'd never heard of, and got a salted caramel cake that was the most
Yummy.
exquisite, right? But the cake itself was spongy and moist and soft and savoring that. And that's also one of the things that takes our system out of fight and flight and into relaxing and gentle. Like I've never truly relaxed, to be honest. Like I can relax, but there's relaxation. And so things like mindful eating, mindful chewing, breathing in a different way, humming, they actually calm your vagus nerve down. And because I've had a lot of stress over the past few years, I have to calm my vagus nerve. And so learning about all these tools and practices with my body and enjoying relaxation, I would say in all of my years, I've not had such a delicious time as I'm having now. And that's again going back to your question about what does I do with clients? What is your pleasure? I asked one of my clients and she's things are fine, but I said to her, I was like, okay, well, how often are you having sex with your husband now? And she said, what? And I'm like, you guys need to reconnect, but I want you to reconnect physically through pleasure. And that will change where you're at in your business. And she says, I never thought about that. You want to, they work together in the business. And so it's like reconnect with this. But I'm like, I don't want you to talk about business. I don't even want you to take a walk. These are the things. And I want you to feel passion and pleasure. And she's just like, this is amazing. I never thought that. Because again, we have our boxes. We do business and then relationship and everything. But especially when you work together, it's such a beautiful blend. And again, where is your pleasure? And pleasure is all in our senses.
I totally resonate and agree with that. I mean, even Napoleon Hill, remember that whole section on our sexuality and business and
Yes,
abundance and all these kind of
yes,
things, right? It's
yes,
not a new thing. And it's time to see our life not as separated boxes, as
yes,
one whole connected thing, because
yes.
we're one connected thing. Like all the
Mhm.
centers in our human design, they work together to
Yep.
express our gifts.
Yes.
So yeah, I love that. And I love that there's more and more people talking about this. And I
Mhm,
love that you support,
mhm,
probably a lot of high achieving women that
mhm.
forget about this piece of ourselves.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
that's super beautiful. And just as you described that plate next to your cup of drink, I was like, I already felt the shifts in my body.
Mhm. Yes.
How that was affecting you. That's the shit.
Yes. Yes. And I'm truly convinced that everything is in the body. I mean, that's how you get out of your mind into the body. 80% of the signals actually are not from your brain, it's from your body. And that's how you communicate with it. And I feel like we've forgotten our bodies. And you talk about human design. And when you have consistent connection and energy from your sacral, which are the sexual organs, it's sexual energy, sexual organs are creation. And even though creation, creativity comes from another chakra, but the first fundamental piece is the sacral. And that's where you have resourcing, where you want to resource and connect with. So pleasure is creation. We can create our own pleasure through the senses. And we have been completely disconnected from our bodies, especially as women. We know the patriarchy, men have been disconnected from their feminine energy. And so this is not just a change in women. It's not about women. Yes, we're seeing women rise, but we're seeing the rise of the feminine, the emotions. And the quantum leap happens in the feminine. Quantum leaps don't happen in logical. And I mean, yes, you can, but you're doing the doing, but a quantum leap happens in the feminine. Wealth is a felt experience. Wealth happens in the body. And I love Amanda Frances for what she says. Vibration precedes the manifestation. You must have the vibration, and we are the creators of that vibration. Yes, your mind as well, but your body, all of it. And so for me, it's just about creating pleasure. And what it's opened up in my friendships and in life, in receiving, it's magnificent. And there's still a part of me that I'm not fully connected yet on money, in that my brain keeps screaming, you sitting down and having that candle and your beautiful plate, it's not creating any money here. And I need to keep reminding myself, yeah, it's actually it is. It does create money, because when I feel good and I feel joy and I feel love, those are actually the same energies of money.
It is. Money is love. It's the
Hmm.
same frequency. And
Yeah.
it's like money is just energy, is whatever we place on it. So
Yes.
again, like the whole piece about being in our body, like if we don't feel safe to be in our body because there's some emotional stuff in the way, right? Because
Mhm.
our body holds our emotion.
Yes.
And so it's that allowing ourselves to be in our body and to feel the love for ourselves. And
Mhm.
there's feeling the vibration. And then there's that peace within ourselves of actually raising our vibration by actually loving these emotional parts that
Mm.
we have neglected, right?
Yes,
We
yes,
haven't given that part pleasure, however you want to say it, right?
yes. Yeah, and giving those parts, the shadow parts, giving them love actually cleans up our energy. So it's a good thing to be going into it and clearing it up, because then you have more energy for all the good parts. And talking about the highest frequency is actually authenticity, which is why I love that you call the podcast Authentic Leadership, because it is the highest frequency. And we don't always have the good feelings, but we're just labeling it as negative and positive. It's an emotion. It's very simply that you're allowed to have the emotion, but don't let it suck up your life. You don't have to go down all the rabbit holes and all the stories. So for me, in addition to pleasure, it's also about neutrality. When I get frustrated about something, of course, I could be like, and then this is going to happen, or this person did this, and so they're to blame for this, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm starting to watch this, and I'm like, is this really the bullshit that's leading my life? But it's actually taking away from my life. Because why am I even bothering to care about it, or to like think about a story that probably won't happen in the future? Why am I daydreaming about this crazy stuff as opposed to dreaming about all of the good that I do desire in my world? And so there's been a lot of stuff that I've had to look at and to see what's living rent free in my mind, my mouth, and my body, because it's honestly it's a waste of time. Do I want to have it? No. I mean, yes, it's a part of life. Yes. And I will acknowledge it's happening. I'm not saying that it's a bypass. But you can have a little space in my mind, and and to vent in a beautiful way, but I'm not letting it own my life. I get to decide what happens in my life.
Beautiful. I really love that. And truly, authenticity is allowing ourselves to be sad when we feel sad, to be angry
Mm-hmm.
when we feel angry, and to be happy when we feel happy. And it's really like when we allow ourselves to be authentic and vulnerable, the energy flows.
Mm-hmm.
When we
Exactly.
don't allow ourselves to actually be real, whether it's a negative feeling,
Yes.
we don't allow ourselves to be ourselves in the moment, that's when it gets stuck in our bodies, you know?
Yes.
So it
Yes.
makes a lot of sense, but I think it's that vulnerability piece.
Yes. I know.
If anything, Amira, like what we've talked about today has so much to do with knowing who we are, like really remembering who we are through all of this, like human design. I do face and body analysis, right? Really understanding who we are and how we want to show up.
Mhm.
And it's really important to step into a new identity. And so, someone listening into this, Amira, right? What is the difference between someone at six figures
Mhm.
versus seven figures? Because this is what you help people with, right?
Yeah. What is truly authentic and desiring to what they want. So, when you and I had previously spoken to prepare for this call, I'd spoken about a client who's a yoga teacher and wanting to open her studio space. But then I asked her, what are your values in life and what do you actually desire in life? And she's like, oh, I really want to move to Bali. And so I said, hold on a second. So you want to have a yoga studio in one of the most expensive cities in the world where the rents are high, but yet you want to move to Bali. And she never actually connected that these were two totally separate dreams. Because if she wants to have the yoga studio, she is going to have to be here and teach classes. And her desire was freedom and flexibility. Well, yes, you can have freedom and flexibility, but not if you're desiring to live in Bali. They literally do not add up. That one is such a black and white one. Look at agencies, and they're following a very cookie cutter model. And yes, to a certain degree, especially when it comes to finances, you need to have boundaries, you need to have rules. Like you need to be clear on that. You need to look at profit margins. But ultimately is that what do you desire the most? And so I'd worked with another agency owner, she's Punjabi. And so she'd come to me because she said, I've been watching your content, and when her wake up call was, I'm working harder and making less money. So then we started going into the business and seeing what she loved. And we actually structured her business, but got her retainers sorted out, how much money she was charging, making sure that her time was well planned, delegating to her team properly, setting up some templates and systems for how they did content creation for clients. And in that, she realized she loved the project side of her business. And when she then said, it's on my heart, I don't want to do the agency. I want to talk about Punjabi culture and Punjabi food, which is so niche, but it's where her heart lies. She became an influencer, went from 20,000 to 90,000 followers within a few months, like weeks of months. That's how quick it was. And where she was charging $500 for a Diwali campaign, in 1 week she made $26,500, which would have normally taken her a month. And because that's what lay on her heart and her authenticity as to what she truly wanted, but she couldn't even get down to what she wanted in her heart. Because again, it was like, I should do this to build from six to seven figures.
Hmm.
But when we looked at what was on her heart, that's where we like, everything exploded for her. But now what she can do with the work that I've done, given her in the kind of strategy, marketing, money, things like that, is that she's got the background now to actually do the doing. But she had to understand what lay on her heart first and then be able to move from 6 to 7 figures. And it's done in my method. We're looking at money. Where's the money coming in? When are you doing your business development? What are you doing for sales? Are you doing sales? Who are you connecting with? Not in pushing, in an authentic manner. Also, a lot of companies will try a million different things to get from 6 to 7 figures. So there's that entrepreneur shiny spoon syndrome, squirrel here, right? Okay,
Mhm.
pull it back. They have something that already got them to 6 figures. Let's elongate that. Let's add more value. Let's charge more money. Are you charging your worth half the time that you're not? So there's an automatic price raise. I think, especially as women, we're afraid to ask more money. Going back to my agency client, when she was doing agency proposals, I'm like, you must mark these up $10,000 more. And she was afraid to, but she went and did it. And her client said, no problem, because we'd also well positioned her. So going back to the systems and the processes, marketing is one of them. Have you got thought leadership? Are you even putting your thought leadership out there? What does a proposal look like? What are you charging? Are you charging enough money on this project? So really it is about money, positioning and marketing, looking at systems and processes in the business, people and leadership. Looking at the 5 key areas of business, one of which is like including that dream, that authenticity, the feminine part. So I'll learn about their masculine parts, but really it is through the feminine, that dream, that desire. What do you really want? And I think we've all been taught a certain system, a very linear system, that you have to do things a certain way. But it's actually not. Let's look at our hearts, what it is that we want, and then let's build. And yes, follow the rules of money or of the systems and processes, but does it align to what you want? How do we grow it? How do we clean it up? How do we elevate you? And those are the ways that you're going to easily get from 6 to 7 figures. I'm not interested in hustle and more stress and doing more. That is not me. Most of the time, I'm looking at things that we're taking away.
Yeah, I love that. We're so aligned in this, and I'm so glad I brought you here because I really want people to hear it from different people that have been met that success, and that we know there's more to it. And it could be as easy as coming back to giving ourselves what we want. And I
Mhm.
think that is the piece, right? So much women are conditioned to sometimes it's a small T, big T trauma, but
Yeah.
it's also just realizing, not realizing like literally the two contrast with, Bali yoga
Yeah.
studio, right? It's like we're just not connecting it because, yeah, we've been living in a box in many ways. So that's really beautiful. And I'm curious if there's something you want to leave with the audience today,
Mhm.
like what would that be?
Yes. It's funny because, and maybe it sometimes is the algorithm, so you tend to get all of these articles, but there's still so much talk of people working to live as opposed to, or what is it, am I getting this right? Working to live or live to work, whichever
Mhm.
one it is.
I
The
know what you're
point
trying to
is
say.
that, yeah, and we're still seeing that. And we're still talking about being overworked or underpaid. And I think we need to evolve and expand that it's not about work actually. Yes, do something you love. Let that be the thing that makes you money, 100%. But I believe that our world has come to a point where everything centers around work or making money, which again are not bad things, but it's the way that we work. And I
Yeah.
think that's the piece that is changing and has to change because you know how COVID was about relaxing and spending time with family. It only got faster after COVID, and everybody was determined not to go back to it. But we're still seeing burnout. We're still
Mhm.
seeing people exhausted. We're still seeing everybody putting in the work for the man or for their business. But the way that we are doing it is robbing us of our lives. It's robbing us of our joy. It's robbing us of our harmony. It's robbing us of our harmony with our environment and our connection to nature, our connection to our children. And it's taking away so much the way that we're doing it. It's not the thing that we're doing, it's the way that we're doing it. And it needs to change because it's funny because I said it on a podcast episode this morning is that the only thing we know that we're getting out of life is that none of us are getting out alive. And so, what's the point of all of this if you are just working all the time or pressure or adding more things to your plate? Is that what you really want to do at the end of your day? Is being like, check, check, check. I have so many things that I've done on my list. Well, please make room for joy. In fact, joy should be with what we lead, joy and pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for leaving that message. It's so important to awaken to that on that treadmill. And yeah, that's definitely going to be on a clip
Yeah.
to really put that out there and have people hear it and receive it.
Yes.
So I hope this going into the holiday season to really allow this to be settled within ourselves. Are you really allowing yourself to desire in your business, having all the pieces there, but really allowing yourself to have what you actually want? Give yourself that gift. And
Yes.
so, Amira, if someone wants to get a hold of you, what would that look like?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Almira B, ALMIRAB. And if you go into my link tree, you can check out my own podcast, and it's also got my coaching programs in there, or drop a DM. I love answering questions, so please do. And thank you so much for having me, Tammy.
I'm so glad I brought you on, Amira. Much alignment, much love, and much receiving for the both of us.
Yes, yes, receiving and giving, but giving in a healthy manner. So you
Yes,
gave so beautifully of yourself in this conversation, and I'm glad that you can receive that as well.
beautiful. Thank you again, Amira. Thank you so much for listening to the Authentic Leaders Rising podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. And leave us a review so others can find the life-changing content that we're sharing here. We are starting our movement on our way to #1, and we need your help to get there. If you'd like to connect with other high-achieving entrepreneurs and leaders who are also on their authentic, energetic leadership journey, join our free Facebook community, Energetically Aligned Leaders. Go to pathtotheheart.com/links to join the Facebook group, book your personalized face analysis experience, or to access our resources.